I was still at the shop, buried in late invoices, when I heard the bell over the front door chime. It was almost 9. I figured it was a customer who didn't read the hours on the glass. But then I saw her. My wife. Dressed nice like she'd been out somewhere. That dead serious look on her face. The one that says, "Sit down, we need to talk." Without actually saying a word, she didn't sit, didn't smile. Just walked up to my desk like she had a mission and dropped a folded piece of paper right next to my laptop. Her hand didn't even hesitate. She said, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about how things have changed." Right away, my gut told me something was off. She wasn't angry. She was prepared. She tapped the paper once and said, "I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget anything. It's just a list. Stuff I think we should work on. Mostly you, but it's about us." I opened the paper. She titled it like it was a homework assignment. "Things you can work on for our relationship." 30 items. All numbered, all typed out like it was a job evaluation. I scanned the first few lines. "You don't open up emotionally. You're not spontaneous anymore. You never help with the mental load. You always think you're right. You don't plan date nights. You make excuses for not listening. Not a single we. Not one maybe I could. Nothing. Just me. Me, what I lacked, what I failed at, what I wasn't doing enough of." 30 bullet points of what was wrong with me according to her. Some were surface level. Some were deep cuts. All of them felt cold. Methodical. Like she'd been keeping notes. It wasn't a list to fix anything. It was a case file. I kept reading through it, waiting to see a single line where she mentioned herself. Nothing. It was a straight-up indictment. And she stood there like she'd handed me a damn gift. "You actually wrote this out?" I asked. She nodded. It helped me organize my thoughts. I folded the paper slowly, slid it into my desk drawer without a word, and stood up. "I'll be upstairs," I said. Then I walked out of the shop and left her standing there. I shut the bedroom door behind me and tossed the list on the nightstand. Sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on my knees, just staring at it for a second. 30 items. Like I was some project she'd been quietly managing behind the scenes. I picked it back up and read through it again. Slower this time. Every word sounded like it came from someone who saw themselves as the expert and me as the problem. It didn't feel like love. It felt like judgment. Like being diagnosed by someone who never looked in a mirror. Halfway through, I stopped reading. Grabbed a scrap of printer paper from the drawer. Wrote one line right in the middle. No title, no number, just one damn sentence. "Get out of this relationship." I went back downstairs with it in my hand. She was still standing there, arms crossed, looking like she was expecting an apology or a thank you. I handed her my paper. She unfolded it and looked up, confused, then let out this awkward little laugh. "Seriously?" "I'm serious." She blinked at me. "You're saying this is your response?" "Yeah," I said. "You handed me a performance review with 30 things I suck at, and you thought what? That I'd salute you and start fixing myself." "It wasn't meant like that," she snapped. "You're twisting it. It was to help us talk." "Talk?" I stepped forward. "You think dropping a list of complaints is a conversation starter? You didn't write a list to fix anything. You wrote it to offload your crap and tell me I've been a failure for years." "You're being dramatic," she said, waving the paper at me like it was nothing. "I was trying to be honest." "Honest?" I laughed. "You were surgical. Cold. Like a manager reviewing an employee who's about to get fired. But I beat you to it." She set the paper down and folded her arms again. "So that's it? You're just done." "I'm taking your advice," I said. "You said things need to change." "I agree. I'm changing the biggest thing. Being in a relationship where I get graded like a middle schooler." "You're not even willing to talk it through?" "You didn't come in here looking to talk. You came in with conclusions already written." She shook her head and let out a breath. "I didn't expect you to act like this." I leaned in a little. "You handed me straight Fs and expected me to say thank you." She looked stunned. Silent. "You didn't ask what I'm feeling. You didn't ask what I've been carrying. You just dumped 30 problems on me like I'm some broken machine. And the fix? Just try harder. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. That's the tone. That's the message. And now that I'm actually responding, you think I'm overreacting. I think you're throwing away a marriage over a list. No, I said. I'm throwing it away because you've clearly been thinking like this for a long time. Long enough to write it all down. And you never once said anything until it was a spreadsheet of my flaws. She looked down. Didn't say anything for a few seconds. I walked past her, headed for the front door. Where are you going? She asked, still standing frozen. Out, I said, because I need a break from being your improvement project. Then I grabbed my keys and left the house. I only stayed gone about an hour. Drove around the neighborhood with the windows down. Didn't even put on music. Just silence and the engine. I wasn't trying to cool off. I was just trying to think without her face in front of me. When I got back, the lights were still on. She was pacing the living room barefoot, arms wrapped tight across her chest like she was cold but didn't want to say it. As soon as I walked in, she turned. I didn't mean for the list to be insulting, she said before I even closed the door. It wasn't an attack. It was supposed to start a conversation. I let the door click shut behind me. Then why didn't it feel like a conversation? Why did it feel like a verdict? She opened her mouth like she had a quick answer but hesitated. I was just trying to organize things. Things that have been building up. Yeah, I said, stepping into the room. Things about me. Only me. You wrote 30 problems down like I was a broken system that needed updates. That's not what I meant. No? Then tell me where in the list you mention yourself. Just one item. One time where you said, here's something I could do better. She looked down at the floor, jaw tightening. Come on, I said. If this was supposed to be about us, then where's the us part? You don't think you have anything to work on? I didn't say that. I waited. She sighed and said, maybe I've been too clear in how I express my needs. I blinked. Too clear? That's your takeaway. She looked back up, confused. What do you mean? I mean, you're trying to spin this like clarity is your flaw. You're still framing it like I'm the issue. Like the only mistake you made was communicating too effectively. That's not what I'm trying to say. Then say it plain. I snapped. Say something real. Not polished. Not wrapped in therapy language. What's one thing you've done wrong in this marriage? Her mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes shifted to the side like she was trying to search her brain for the right answer. But nothing came out. I stepped closer. You want me to grow? Great. Growth is mutual. Growth is looking in the damn mirror and saying, here's what I've done to hurt the person I'm supposed to love. Can you do that? She dropped her arms to her sides and sat down on the armrest of the couch. Slow. Her whole posture deflated. I just wanted to fix things, she said quietly. You don't fix people, I said. You fix situations. You fix yourself. But you don't hand your husband a checklist and say, here's how you need to change so I can be happy. That's not marriage. That's management. She stared at the floor, quiet, still. You've been keeping score for years, haven't you? I asked. Her eyes flicked up for a second, then back down. No answer. Yeah, I said. You built a case. And when it got heavy enough, you printed it out and dropped it on my desk. She rubbed the side of her neck like it physically hurt to sit in the silence. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You want a conversation? Start here. What's your list? She didn't move, didn't speak. For the first time, she didn't have a response. She just sat there, completely still. No defense, no explanation, just finally quiet. Next morning, I walked into the kitchen and smelled bacon. Real bacon, not the fake turkey stuff she'd been on about the past year. She was at the stove, flipping pancakes like this was some Saturday from 5 years ago. She smiled at me. Coffee's already brewed. You want 2 eggs or 3? I stood there for a second. What is this? Breakfast, she said, cheerful like it was obvious. Figured we could sit down and talk. Like, really talk. I didn't move. just watched her for a second. She grabbed a plate, started piling food on it like she was building peace with a spatula. "You think pancakes fix this?" I asked. She paused mid-motion. "No, look, I know last night got intense, but I think we were both just in the moment. Emotional. I booked a consult with a divorce lawyer," I said flat. She froze, plate still in her hand. Her whole body stiffened like she'd just gotten slapped. "You what?" "I already called. Have a meeting next week." Her voice dropped. "You're serious? You think I'm bluffing? I told you I took your list seriously, just not in the way you planned." She set the plate down slowly, like moving too fast might break something. "Okay, maybe we don't rush into anything. We can talk this through." I pulled out a chair, didn't sit. "You want to talk now because you think I might actually leave, not because you saw what you did wrong." "That's not true. You made breakfast." I cut in. "That's what you did. That's your big move. You think making bacon somehow proves you care." "I'm showing effort," she said, getting defensive again. "That's what you said you wanted, right?" "No. I said I wanted ownership. Big difference. You're doing chores, not soul-searching." She shook her head and looked down. "You're twisting everything. I'm holding you to the same standard you held me to. Remember that list? All those things I wasn't doing? This is your version of fixing things, eggs and surface-level niceness." She didn't respond, just turned back to the stove like she had something left to prove. That week was more of the same. She started wiping down baseboards, organized the pantry like she was preparing for inspection, left little notes on my nightstand. "Hope your day's good," with a heart. Made dinner 2 nights in a row. Cleaned the garage, vacuumed my truck, folded laundry I hadn't even asked her to touch. Every day it was something. A task, a gesture, and I'm trying without the words. But it all felt like window dressing. One night, she asked, "Do you see that I'm making an effort?" "Yeah," I said. "I see it. But effort without reflection is just movement." She looked confused again, like I was speaking another language. "Let me make it simple," I said. "You're trying to act better. I need you to understand better." She opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but didn't. She just nodded, then picked up the broom and started sweeping again. 2 nights later, we were sitting on opposite ends of the couch watching TV, not really talking. She muted the show during a commercial, reached behind her, and pulled something out from under a throw pillow. A single sheet of paper, folded twice. She held it out to me. "I wrote something." I didn't take it right away. She pressed it into my hand. "It's different this time. Just read it." I opened it. Title said, "Things I Can Improve." 3 bullet points. Ask how your day was more often. Be more appreciative. Don't assume you're always fine just because you say you are. That was it. 3 things. I read it twice, handed it back. "This isn't the point." "What do you mean?" she asked. "I mean, you're still treating this like a maintenance checklist. You're trying to manage the situation. This isn't ownership, this is PR." Her face twisted. "I'm trying to show I hear you." "No, you're trying to look like you hear me. You wrote a follow-up list because you think balance means writing down something about yourself. But it's surface level. You're editing your tone, not facing the core." "I'm doing what you asked." "No," I cut in. "I didn't ask for a list. I asked for you to see what's been going on. To stop performing like you're solving a work conflict." She pulled her knees up to her chest, defensive again. "So what? I'm not allowed to try." "You're allowed to be honest," I said. "But you're still focused on image control. You want me to think you've changed. But I don't feel it." She looked away. "I don't know what that even means." "It means your version of fixing things is always external. Cleaning, cooking, list-making, nice gestures. You don't know how to look inward without attaching it to an action. Something you can check off." She stayed quiet, chewing at the edge of her thumbnail. "You offered me that first list like it was a set of instructions. Now this one is not much different. Just fewer bullets and softer wording." She looked at me. "Would counseling help?" "That depends," I said. "Why do you want it?" to communicate better, to learn how to talk through things instead of fight. I shook my head. See? That's strategy again. You're still trying to optimize this marriage, not understand what went wrong. So what do you want me to say? She asked, voice raising slightly. That I ruined everything? That I'm the bad guy? I want you to stop looking for the right answer, I said. I want you to sit with the fact that maybe you pushed so hard to get the version of me you wanted, you forgot to see the version I already was. Her eyes started to water, but she didn't wipe them, just stared at the paper in her hand. I thought I was being clear, she said quietly. No, you were being controlling, wrapped it in clarity, and now you're confused that it didn't land the way you planned. She looked completely drained, like the act was finally slipping. I stood up. You want to fix this? Stop giving me paperwork. I walked to the hallway, then paused and turned back. You don't have to prove anything with a list. You just have to admit the truth. To yourself first, then maybe to me. She didn't say a word, just sat there staring down at that page like it was suddenly written in a language she couldn't read. She was still in the living room when my phone buzzed. Her sister's name popped up first. Missed call. 2 minutes later, a text from her brother. Hey man, want to grab a drink sometime this week? Just talk. I stared at the screen, then looked at her. You talking to your family about this? She hesitated. I mean, yeah, a little. I walked back into the room. What exactly did you tell them? She shifted in her seat. Just that we're having communication differences. That things have been tense. Communication differences? I repeated. You gave me a report card with 30 things wrong with me, and now you're out there telling people this is about poor phrasing? She rolled her eyes a little. It's not like I read them the whole list. No, of course you didn't, I said, because you know how that would sound. That's not true, she snapped. I just didn't want them getting involved. They're already involved, I said, holding up my phone. Your brother wants to play therapist now. She stood up, arms crossed again. They were concerned. I didn't ask them to call you, because you gave them the watered-down version. You're out here managing the image again, just like the list, just like your 3-point apology. That's not fair. It's dead on. I cut in. You couldn't even tell your own family the truth about what's happening, because deep down, you know it's messed up. She didn't answer. You wrote me a list like I was your underperforming employee, I continued. But now, when people might question you, suddenly it's just a difference. I wasn't trying to make you look bad, she said. You were trying not to make yourself look bad. I fired back. Because you're embarrassed. You know, if you actually said out loud what you did. I handed my husband 30 written complaints and expected him to fix himself. It would sound insane. She opened her mouth to respond, then paused. Her jaw clenched. I stepped closer. You're still defending your intention because you can't admit the execution was controlling. I was trying to be honest, she said, voice cracking just a little. No, I said, quieter now. You were trying to be in control. Honest people talk. Controlling people document. She sat back down slowly, not looking at me. I let the silence hang between us. She wasn't crying. She wasn't raging. Just stuck. Like even she couldn't justify the story she was trying to tell anymore. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself some water, and leaned on the counter. Behind me, she finally spoke. I didn't think it would blow up like this. It didn't blow up, I said. It revealed something. That's different. She didn't reply. I took the glass, walked past her again without a word, and headed upstairs. The day after that last blow-up, I left work early and met with the lawyer. Nice guy, clean office. Told him the basics, no kids, joint bank accounts, 1 house, 2 cars. Nothing complicated. No screaming matches or cheating scandals. Just a marriage that got sucked dry by control and silence. He slid a folder across the desk. Said I could take the draft home, read through it, and make changes if needed. I didn't even hesitate. I took it. That night, I walked in the front door and handed her the folder. She opened it, glanced inside, and looked up like I just pulled the plug on her oxygen. You actually did it, she said, barely above a whisper. I said I was serious, I told her. She sat down, flipping through the papers like maybe one of them would say just kidding. Her lips moved as she read, but no sound came out. Then she stood and disappeared into the office. 10 minutes later, she came back with a pile. Printouts, handwritten notes, highlighter marks all over everything. She laid them on the table like evidence. I've been reading about relationship patterns, she said. There's a whole thing about how childhood roles play into adult dynamics. I think this could explain some of the stuff between us. I stared at her. You think a blog post is going to solve this? I'm trying to understand. No, you're trying to pass a test. I cut in. This isn't research. This is panic. She grabbed a notebook, flipped to a page. This article talks about emotional labor and I'm not your homework assignment. That stopped her. I pointed at the papers. You're doing it again. Scrambling to collect tools, strategies, advice. Anything that makes you feel like you're regaining control. I'm trying to fix it, she said. No, you're trying to fix me, like always. Except now you're just doing it through psychology articles instead of numbered lists. She sat back, stunned. Didn't argue. Just listened for once. You still don't get what this is about, I said. You keep focusing on technique, on how to do better. What I need is something deeper than that. I need you to see better. See me. See us. Not manage the optics, but actually sit with the truth. She opened her mouth, then stopped. Something changed in her face. Less panic, more confusion. Like it finally hit her she was losing the script. I don't know how to fix this, she said quietly. It's not about fixing, I said. It's about facing it. This marriage wasn't a shared effort. It was a performance, mostly for your comfort. And now that I'm stepping off the stage, you're treating it like a systems failure. She nodded slowly, then ran her hand over the side of her face. Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't cry. For the first time, I think she didn't have a plan. So what do you want from me? She asked. Nothing, I said. Not right now. Just sit with it. Stop reacting. Stop strategizing. Just sit in the mess you helped create. She sat down at the table, picked up the folder, and started reading again. Quiet this time. No flipping, no scanning. Just reading. Actually reading. I left her there and went out to the garage. Didn't even do anything out there. Just sat on the old couch next to the tool rack and stared at the wall. First time in weeks the house felt quiet in a way that wasn't hostile. It was just still. A few weeks went by. We didn't talk much at first. No arguments, no performances. Just quiet. For once, she wasn't trying to prove anything. No more chore marathons. No more self-help articles on the kitchen table. Then one night we were sitting out back. It was warm out, just past sundown. Both of us nursing a drink in silence. Out of nowhere, she said, I talked to my mom today. I glanced over but didn't say anything. She asked me something. She went on. Said, would you want him to make a list of 30 things wrong with you? That caught my attention. She told me marriage isn't about redesigning your spouse. She added, voice low. She said if you're keeping a list, you're already halfway out the door. I waited, still saying nothing. I wanted to hear where this was going without nudging it along. I think I was doing that, she admitted. Collecting complaints. Just stacking them up every time you didn't do something the way I wanted. I took a sip of my drink. Still didn't speak. I thought I was working towards something, she said. An improved version of us. A better version of you. But really, I was comparing you to someone who doesn't exist. Now I looked at her. What do you mean? She sighed. An imaginary man. The one I thought you could be if I just tweaked this or fixed that. Someone who was more affectionate, more planned out, more like whatever fantasy I had in my head. I didn't say a word. I just let her keep going. I started noticing things I did too, like how I interrupt you when you talk, or how I always assume you're in a bad mood just because you're quiet, or how I take over the schedule and don't ask if you're okay with it. She looked over at me. You probably feel like a passenger in your own marriage. I stared at the fence, Let that sink in. Yeah, I said finally. That's exactly what it felt like. I thought I was being helpful, she said. Making decisions. Keeping things moving. But it wasn't partnership, it was control. I nodded. You treated my way of existing like a flaw. She swallowed hard. I did. I could tell it wasn't easy for her to say. Her voice kept breaking, but she didn't stop talking. I didn't trust you to lead, even when you never asked me to follow. I just decided my way was better, safer, cleaner. I set my glass down. And when I didn't fight it, you took that as weakness. She looked over again. I think I did. That was the first time I felt like she actually saw the damage. Not as a concept, but as something real. Like she was finally putting herself on the other side of it and realizing what it looked like from where I'd been standing all these years. She leaned back in her chair. I thought I was strong because I held everything together. But I was just busy. Not honest. Not vulnerable. I waited a beat. So what now? I'm not trying to win you back, she said. I'm trying to figure out how I got so far off track without noticing. Why I needed to reshape the man I married instead of just loving him. I picked up my glass again. Took another sip. It wasn't fixed. But for the first time, it wasn't fake. A few nights after that backyard talk, she came into the bedroom while I was getting ready for bed. No makeup. No dramatics. Just quiet. She was holding a notebook, spiral-bound, beat up on the edges like she'd been carrying it around for days. She sat on the edge of the bed and held it out. I want you to read this. I took it, opened the cover. 3 full pages, front and back. No titles, no cutesy formatting. Just bullet points, one after another, all handwritten. I interrupt you when you're mid-thought because I assume I know better. I plan things without asking because I think your answer will slow me down. I criticize how you say things instead of listening to what you're actually saying. I treat your calmness like indifference. I talk like I'm the only one who's exhausted. I flipped the page. Kept going. Direct. Raw. No finger pointing. No, but you also... stuff. Just her. I glanced up. She was sitting with her hands folded tight in her lap, not looking at me. You wrote all this? She nodded. Every word. I kept reading. It wasn't poetry. It wasn't polished. But it was real. Little moments I'd forgotten or forced myself to forget. Spelled out like receipts. She finally spoke. I didn't want to do another gesture. I didn't want it to be another tactic. I just needed to see it all in one place. What I've actually done. Not what I meant, what I did. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She kept going. I'm sorry for 15 years of trying to shape you into someone you never claimed to be. For turning love into pressure. For confusing leadership with control. And for thinking expressing needs gave me a license to make demands. She looked up at me. I didn't know the difference until now. It was the first apology that didn't feel rehearsed. No phrases borrowed from podcasts or blogs. No sidestepping. Just a woman sitting in front of the mirror she'd been avoiding for years. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Does any of this change things? I sat back in the chair by the closet, notebook still in my hands. I don't know, I said. But this is the first thing that hasn't felt like strategy. It feels honest. She nodded slowly, didn't push. We sat there for a while. No next move, no plan. Just the sound of the ceiling fan and 2 people who'd finally stopped trying to win the argument. About 3 months later, we were sitting outside a coffee shop on a Saturday. No tension, no lists, just coffee and decent weather. We didn't talk much at first. She asked how work was going. I asked if her car was still making that weird sound. It was the kind of small talk that, for once, didn't feel like filler. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded paper. No build-up this time. I've got one more list, she said, half smiling. Just one item. I raised an eyebrow but took it. I unfolded it. It read, "Learn to be married to who you are, not who I imagined." I stared at it for a few seconds. The paper was soft, like she'd folded and unfolded it a bunch before now. She sipped her drink. I found a counselor, she said. Not the kind who helps couples fight better. This one helps people figure out if they even should stay married. The real kind of work. I kept my eyes on the paper. And you want to go? I want to find out, she said. If I can actually show up in this marriage with my eyes open. Not chasing a version of you I made up in my head. I looked up. That's the most honest thing you've said since this started. She nodded. I don't want to fix you. I want to figure out if I'm capable of not trying to. I set the paper down on the table between us. If we do this, it's not about repair. It's not about patching what never worked. I know. It has to be a rebuild, I said. From the ground up. She didn't flinch. That's what I'm here for. That night, after she went back to her place, I walked into the garage, opened the drawer where I'd stashed the folder, and pulled out the divorce papers. I held them for a long time. No music, no dramatic moment. Then I fed them through the shredder one page at a time. Not because everything was fixed, but because, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was being managed. I felt seen. Would you have shredded the divorce papers? Or signed them? Let us know what you do in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.